Hello and good afternoon. I'm Felicia Malelli, the board chair for New Jersey Public Health Innovation Political Action Committee. Today, I am joined by board secretary and co-founder, Katie Rivera.
Hello.
Hey, Katie. We couldn't be more excited to be coming live once again on this PAC Chat forum, this StreamYard studio that we've created to kick off our 2022 primary election endorsement season with our first interview and the highly anticipated endorsement of Congressional District 12 candidate, Mr. Darius Mayfield, who is running against Bonnie Watson Coleman in the general election. So stay tuned, and we'll be inviting him on shortly in just a moment. If this is your first time joining us on the PAC Chat, welcome. And if you're a returning viewer, welcome back. I'm sure many of you who are joining us, whether returning or here for the first time, because you too are seeing that at an alarming rate, our government in this state and across the nation, that multiple governments are encroaching on our health sovereignty, both individual and on a more global front, with infringements such as overreaching mandates, repeals on exemptions, the micromanagement of health data, and much, much more. In regards to these threats, many of you may even be feeling less somewhat disempowered by your individual ability to protect your own bodily autonomy, or perhaps with the lack of transparency and informed consent that you have seen throughout this COVID pandemic and previously, or maybe with the stripping of your parental rights here in New Jersey and beyond. This is why we launched New Jersey Public Health Innovation PAC and created this innovative platform, the PAC Chat, to give you, our community, the opportunity to meet key political players and influential people in our state who share our determination to protect and preserve our individual health choices and who ultimately will help us to get this state back on track. After all, public health is and can only be the product of the personal health of every single man, woman, and child in the community. When our elected officials respect the health of each of us individually, they will also be cultivating the health of all of us as a community. I'm going to pass it out over to Katie to elaborate further on who we are and our endorsement process.
Thanks, Felicia. Okay, so we are NJPHIPAC. That stands for New Jersey Public Health Innovation Political Action Committee. And we are a nonprofit, nonpartisan New Jersey State Political Action Committee. We are an organization made up of deeply committed and experienced advocates across a myriad of professional backgrounds who formed this PAC with one mission: to protect and strengthen the constitutionally guaranteed and fundamental rights of all New Jersey residents to make medical decisions for themselves and their families without coercion or undue constraint. Our primary goal in forming NJPHIPAC is to give the power back to the people of New Jersey by elevating political candidates and influencers who will either hurt or help that mission. Our endorsement process was developed by a set of standards and integrity. Every endorsement we make requires at minimum that the candidate complete and submit the NJPHIPAC survey, that the candidate participate in an in-depth interview with the board of directors, and there are also other factors that get weighed into how we vote on endorsements. We consider any prior voting records that the candidate may have, and whether they have public positions or statements that they've made on matters that affect our mission. Ultimately, the NJPHIPAC standards are to endorse candidates with transparency, integrity, and measurement without bias. To be an integral resource to New Jersey voters in this 2022 election year, our aim is to guide you to where your votes are warranted. The primaries are an important race, as this is how we choose the best candidate to take the general. The 2022 congressional race in New Jersey is an opportunity for you, the New Jersey voters, to ensure health freedom and parental rights is represented statewide and nationally. When you see the NJPHIPAC Gold Seal endorsement, you can rest assured that this is the best candidate for our collective mission. Our 2022 Congressional Endorsement Guide will be out in time to cast those votes. In the meantime, our current and future endorsements can be found on our website. You could go to www.njphipac.org/endorsements. Another note for our viewers today is that you can give a little to help a lot. NJPHIPAC is a statewide grassroots PAC. We rely on contributions from New Jersey voters, such as yourselves, to be successful. There is no corporate funding behind us, no ties to industry. We rely solely on the support of our donors to influence political elections in the state. All contributions to NJPHIPAC are used 100% to directly influence key campaigns across the state of New Jersey. Donations allow us to support the campaigns of candidates who align with our mission. This support increases their exposure and influences the election to seat candidates who will advocate on our behalf in New Jersey and beyond. Like we saw with many of the new incoming elected candidates in the 2021 New Jersey legislative race, who NJPHIPAC got behind. I'm going to pass it off to Felicia, and we're going to bring Darius on now. You're muted, Felicia.
Thank you, Katie. So without further ado, I now have the pleasure of introducing the high-spirited, always poised, a tried and true American enthusiast, and officially our first endorsed candidate, who in summary has vowed to be a health freedom defender and protector. Please say hello to Mr. Darius Mayfield of District 12. Hello, Darius.
Hi, thank you guys for having me on, and what great words you have to say. I think you really I feel like you kind of captured, who I am, and I'm proud to be considered a level-headed person, somebody that, stays the course, is not extreme. So when you say those type of things, it really does mean a lot. And I got to tell you, thank you guys so much, which I just learned when I was talking to Felicia, that I'm the first official congressional candidate in New Jersey. That means a lot. So I really appreciate you guys.
And it means a lot to us as well. And I definitely meant what I said. I've had the pleasure of meeting you on multiple occasions, all on the premise of supporting our issue and getting the state back on track. So I'm really excited to dig into some questions and get to know you a little bit more, and also share you to our viewers.
Just don't be too hard on me.
For those who are familiar to the parameters of Congressional District 12, that district includes parts of Somerset, Mercer, and Middlesex counties. So first of all, on behalf, let me just extend on the behalf of the entire NJPHIPAC board, our congratulations on this endorsement. And again, thank you for your outwardly stance on the issues that matter to us.
Thank you so much. And I just want to add that one more. I know it's a really small piece, but Union County as well. And just one city in Union County, which is Plainfield, New Jersey, which is going to be very important to us in November.
Okay. Thank you.
That was a test, Darius. We wanted to see if you would pick that up.
Oh, I already know. That's why I picked it up right away and just moved on.
Well, to be honest, as I was looking at the map, trying to figure out the area. If it's a small part, I probably couldn't see it if I didn't have my glasses.
And it's literally because there's only literally one town in Union now. So they took out the other town. So there's only one town. But I will say Plainfield, I believe, is has a second or third most amount of registered voters of any city in my district. And it's an urban area, which I'm sure we'll kind of get into a little bit, but will be very important.
Excellent.
Great.
All right, so let's dive in. Darius, we're just going to do some like a nice little warm up. If you can tell our viewers a little bit about yourself, both personally, professionally outside of politics, what your experience is with philanthropy,
Yeah.
and then if you could fold into really what prompted you to enter politics and specifically run for Congress.
Yeah. So I guess like, I was just talking to my cousin the other day, and he sees me putting up so much stuff and drawing back to some of the stuff we did. So I guess it wasn't really until I started running that I realized how much stuff I've been able to do and accomplish in my life, which is just another testament to us all living in the greatest country in the world, where you can actually be who you want to be and, strive for greatness and really go after it. And I feel like, after looking back on a lot of the things that I've done in my life and all the things that I continue to do, I believe that's exactly what I've done. And I'm proud of that. And I just hope to pass that feeling on to the younger generations coming up, to let them know that this is a great country. You can, be great no matter what your circumstances. In fact, I come from very, very humble beginnings. I was born in New Brunswick, New Jersey at St. Peter's Hospital. My father left when I was about 3 years old, so I was raised with my mother and my little sister. We grew up on welfare, Section 8. So again, very, very humble beginnings, to later in life becoming the youngest sales manager in the top 25 auto group at the age of 19 years old, and to about 5 years ago becoming the first Black general manager in that same auto group when I started to run Manhattan Volkswagen out in New York City. So, that's my professional career. I do come from the automotive industry. I started in the automotive industry when I was 17 years old. And literally, I got my first check one week, and that check was about $2,600. And I said, all right, this is what I'm going to do. Because, $2,600, I mean, I knew grown adults that were twice my age that wasn't making that type of money a week. So it was probably ended up being one of the best decisions I've ever made in my life. I was able to, again, become the youngest sales manager in that same auto group, Open Road Auto Group. When I started to run their Acura store out there, I had a very, very successful career in the car business over the last, I don't want to give my age away, but over the last, 16 years or so, which is for all those kids out there, you will be this old one day too. So enjoy life while you can, man, because sometimes I wake up still feeling like I'm 20 something, but yeah, I'm in my 30s now and I've gone through quite a bit. So that's just life at the end of the day. But in my professional career, I had a very, very successful career in the automotive industry. A lot of people actually are now relating my work in the automotive industry to my success in politics. And they relate it to that because often in the car business, you have to have what's called the gift of gab in order to sell cars, in order to be successful. And I'm used to talking to people for the last 16, 17 years, every day, all day. I think it's also prepared me in a professional way as well, where part of the reason why I got into politics is because of how disparaging certain elected officials have been towards their constituents, regardless if they're in the same party or the opposite party, especially over the last 5 or 6 years. And I was talking to somebody the other day, and I related that to me being in the car business and having to be professional. You get rude customers that come in sometimes. You get people that are upset with something that happened to their car. You get all types of things. But in every instance, I have to maintain a level of professionalism. I have to let them know that I understand their issues, and I'm not just going to sideswipe them and act as if they're not significant. And I think those skills come into play a lot as far as politics, especially when I'm out at events, talking to people. As everybody should know, I'm a very accessible person, and that's what this run is about. This is what this run is about for a lot of people, regular, everyday Americans standing up. One thing I want to let people know is that we always have to remember that the House of Representatives was created by our founders to be the closest chamber to the people. When they created this chamber, they weren't expecting lawyers and scientists and all types of elite people to run for office. They actually wanted farmers, school teachers, small business owners to run for these positions because it was supposed to be the closest house to the people. So I think a lot of what we're doing right now with regular people stepping up and running is putting us back where we were originally supposed to be. You know, we're putting our house literally back in order, getting the people closest to the people in that house. So when we go forward, creating legislation and doing certain things, we're always keeping those everyday Americans in mind when we're doing that. And I think that's something that we've lost over the last some decades, to be honest with you. This didn't just start years ago, it started decades ago. And when you have people that are in office for 20, 30, 40, 50 years at a clip, it's no wonder why they are so disconnected from the everyday man and woman. There's no wonder why they're trying to take people's medical freedoms away, people's parental rights away, because they no longer live amongst the people. You know, they are now the elite, and they don't understand the sentiment of the everyday man and woman and the sentiment of the country. And boy, oh boy, has it done great things for us, because it's a great time to be a Republican. And I think over the next year, you're going to see resounding victories all across this country. So I do come from the automotive industry again, which serves well as far as skills translating over into the political world, being able to relate to people, being able to talk to people, being able to, most importantly, listen to people at the end of the day to find out what their issues are, what they'd like to see from me, and how they think that we can better represent them going forward. Within that time, while I was in the car business, I met my current, my fiance, Saudia, and myself and her got into a lot of charity work. I do a lot of work with the special needs community. Me and her actually created an organization called Heart a Cause, where every year we were hearting a different cause. So the first year it was autism, where we bring in an autism organization to benefit them through a fashion show, everything. We actually did it at the Sony Wonder Technology Lab out in New York City. It was a huge event, had football players there, celebrities, raised a lot of money for that organization. So it was great. The following year, we did PIC Down syndrome. And we did another event out there in New York City. I believe that one was at the Carlton Hotel in New York City. And, you know, from that, they were so impressed with what we did that they actually asked Saudia to join their board of directors. So she ended up shortly after that joining the board of directors to chair the gala that they throw on, which raises hundreds of thousands of dollars every year. You know, Gigi's Playhouse, which is the organization, is the largest Down syndrome charity in New York City, who currently actually my executive coordinator, Yamira, is the president of the board of Gigi's Playhouse as well. So we've kind of kept that tight-knit family there, and she's awesome. I think she's on now. So hi Yamira. But yeah, so we, you know, I have a very big heart for the special needs community. I try to give back whenever I can. The third year, we actually did Alzheimer's. So we every year, again, we just picked a different cause to actually champion, to do a fashion show to help raise funds for. And our work hasn't stopped since. You know, I'm always doing what I can within the Down syndrome community and the autistic community. My little cousin has autism. So once, you know, he was born and I got to interact with him, that really touched my heart to make sure I had some type of voice in that community, and I stayed close to that community. You know, one of the great things about those with special needs, especially when it comes to the Down syndrome and autistic community, for me is I feel like a lot of times they're smarter than a lot of us. I feel like they just have so much information up there. It's almost like too much information that they can't just get it out the right way. And in some ways, you know, it's probably a bad comparison. Well, I won't compare it that. So when it comes to autistic and kids with Down syndrome, one thing I've noticed about them is they're a very, very, very good judge of character, right? They will let you know right away. None of them, they don't even have to talk to you for too long. They can just sense it. They can just feel it. And I'm happy to know that no matter which child or adult with that, you know, condition I was around, they always seem to gravitate towards me. I've always had really great relationships with them, almost like, you know, almost like a eye-watering relationship where they just come up to me, they hug me, and, you know, they just make you feel so special and good. So to know that, to feel that has always inspired me, always let me know that my heart is a good heart. I have a good heart. I have a big heart. And, you know, at the end of the day, none of us are perfect. You know, I'm not the perfect man, just like nobody else is the perfect man or a woman. But to be able to feel that authenticity and know that there's genuine love there, and know that they appreciate with me and my fiance Saudi and others are giving back to them by sacrificing our time and doing events with them and trying to raise funds. It really is a inspirational feeling. And I really do cherish and value that a lot. And that is why once we are elected to the House of Representatives, I will also always be a champion for the special needs community as well. And I think they know that. So I'm happy to have the backing of that community and have them really understand who I am, how I honestly feel, and how good and pure my heart actually is. So that's a very good feeling. So we do a lot of work in that way. As far as other causes, I was inspired by Mr. Scott Presler, which I'm sure a lot of people in here know, a couple of years ago, who did the first cleanup in Baltimore after President Trump basically called out some of the disastrous things that were happening in that community. I hooked up with him after he did that because I was so inspired by what he did. And after talking to him that night, 30 days later, we had our first cleanup here in New Jersey, which was in Newark, New Jersey. And these cleanups called American Cleanup is where I take mostly conservatives to urban neighborhoods, and we clean up trash all across urban neighborhoods in urban cities. So we've done Philadelphia 4 times now. We've done Newark, New Jersey twice now. We've done Paterson, New Jersey. We just did Trenton, New Jersey for the second time this past Sunday. We've been in Camden, New Jersey, as well as Atlantic City, New Jersey. We have a lot of other places coming up, but I've basically, for the most part, over the last year and a half, 2 years, taken, in some cases, MAGA hat wearing conservatives to the middle of the hood to clean up trash. And, it's been nothing but absolutely positive responses. When we were in Trenton this past Sunday, that was actually, I think we got the most comments. People just walked by and just kept saying, thank you. We appreciate you guys being here. Thank you. And that's what we're looking to do. We're looking to inspire people. We're looking to let them know that, there's not as much hate as the media would like to try to make them think. And our politicians would like to try to make them think. When I was in Camden, New Jersey, that's probably one of the most inspiring moments where a lady just came up to us and started profusely crying and said, you know what? We never thought we would see you guys here. And she was specifically referring to white people in a sense and conservatives and Republicans in a sense, because I think a lot of the problems that come from our communities, and I'm sure you guys already know this, but my motto is not black, not white, American. And I think a lot of the problems that come between us when it comes to race is just unfamiliarity, that word is so hard, sorry guys, with each other, and you find that a lot of black people in these cities have either never met a white person in their life, or they're just not really interacting with them like that. So they just really don't know the other side. And the same thing with the Caucasians that live in another part of town. They just don't interact with black people on a daily basis. So they just don't really know each other. It's not that they hate each other. They just don't know anything about each other. So when they're in front of each other, it's a very unfamiliar feeling sometimes. And, sometimes that's a recipe for, maybe people's feelings that get hurt or get overly emotional about a situation. So my goal with these cleanups was not only to come and inspire people and show them that they can do it too, and they can be great and clean up their own neighborhoods, but to also make that introduction to those two different worlds that may in some cases, in a lot of cases, never really coexist. And what I found is when you get them in front of each other, it's all love. There is no you're a Democrat, you're a Republican, you're white, you're black. It's just like, thank you. How are you doing? Let's talk about this issue or that issue. Just like, again, regular everyday Americans. And I'm no rocket scientist. It doesn't take a rocket scientist to figure out these things. But if you listen to our elected officials, you would think that it does by the way they are constantly dividing us from their bully pulpits on a daily basis. I like to ask people, when you went to work yesterday, when you went to the supermarket yesterday, when you went to do your laundry yesterday, did you experience racism? And 99.9% of the time, the answer is going to be no, because we are not experiencing that same racism they keep projecting on a daily basis in our everyday lives. But people listen to this over and over and over again, and they start to actually visualize and think things that may not even be happening in their own lives. So we want to make sure we bring some clarity to the situation. At the end of the day, it really is disappointing, especially for the older generation in this country, especially for the elected officials of that older generation, that they do push this race issue so much, because me personally, I come from the freest generation to ever walk this earth. You know, I was born in the hood, but later moved to the suburbs. So I was around black and brown people early in my life, got to make a lot of Caucasian friends towards the middle of my life. And then, you know, as I got to high school and stuff, it was a mix of both. And by the time I got to high school, it was everybody in high school. So this is how we grew up. I had black friends, white friends, brown friends, Muslim friends, Catholic friends, Jewish friends. And we really didn't have to worry about a lot of stuff. We didn't think about a lot of those things. So to see the older generation, especially elected officials, because my opponent is always relating everything to race. It's like she just has a race issue. She just wants to talk about everything being black or white, but that's not the case. It's not the reality that we all live every day, and people are sick and tired of those type of things. So I want to bring back some of that unity and inject it into our politics. But this isn't fake unity like Joe Biden that says he's going to do it and then does the exact opposite when he gets there. This is real unity because I've lived it all of my life. And I think it's time for us to start replacing people that have not lived that unity because they don't understand. They just can't get it. I talk to some of my uncles sometimes, and they grew up in a different time. And I understand that. You know, they have some scars that may not allow them to get over certain things or see certain things. I don't have those scars. Right. We had unity growing up. We had a lot of love for each other. Still to this day, a lot of the people I grew up with were Democrats. You know, they're still my friends and families. At the end of the day, I don't hate them because they made the wrong choice last election. It is what it is. They learned their lesson, and some of them have told me that they learned their lesson, but it is what it is. But I just want to make sure we inject some of that unity back into our politics and really put this country on the right track. And I think whether you're Democrat, independent, or Republican, that's what people really want right now. And that's what people are going to start demanding. And if they don't get it, you know, this country is in for a world of trouble. But I think right now, people are so united in their sentiments that we will get this right. And hopefully I'll be the one representing you guys in the 12th district next year to do just that.
Excellent. Wow, Darius. I mean, the relatability that we have to you is amazing. And you definitely showed that. Very inspiring. All of the selfless service that you have done. It's remarkable. And I thank you. The people of New Jersey, I'm sure, thank you. That experience that you had, and I love the way you know yourself so well, and that you use your strengths to do such good. And I think that that's a value that many, or a characteristic or trait that you have that is going to bring you far, So I just want to so let's bring it to the current events here in New Jersey and beyond. As mentioned earlier, things accelerated very quickly. And before we knew it, the people of New Jersey were facing masking, lockdowns, vaccine mandates for employment, including the states, the school personnel, healthcare workers. Many have been affected by this pandemic on so many levels. And I just wanted to ask if you could share with us your thoughts on these requirements specifically, and then tell us about your campaign in your district and what challenges, if any, you are up against, and what your path is to victory. So that's actually like two different questions. So you can take one at a time.
First I want to say, when it comes to mandates, those are not laws, right? Mandates are not laws. They should have never been levied down. And I'm afraid that the politicians, the career politicians in office now that levied down these mandates have done irreparable damage to our country. And now it's on people like myself, it's on organizations like you to really make sure that going forward, we never experience anything like this again. This was one big learning lesson right now. And it's sad that we had to go through this learning lesson, but we are where we are now, and we need to make sure that we are prepared going forward. You see them coming out with the monkeypox things now and different things. So who knows where they're going to try to go with these things, especially during an election year. It's going to be very interesting to see. One thing I will say is that you know, regardless if you are a Democrat, Republican, or unaffiliated, I think what they've done over the last couple of years with mandates, with vaccine mandates, with closing down of our businesses, with mask mandates, they've really unified us on an issue. And, you know, I saw that a lot when I was in Trenton, New Jersey, maybe a month and a half ago, when I was out there protesting something. The Democratic mayor went out there, and a couple of Black Democrats came up to me and said one thing. They said, this was the first year that I was a one-issue voter, and we voted for Jack Ciattarelli. And these were Black Democrats. And the issue that they voted for him on was the lockdowns and the mandates, the vaccine mandates, and those issues specifically. So essentially medical freedom and things of that sort. And that really resonated with me when they said that, because that was the first time a Democrat, especially a Black Democrat, had said that to me. You know, typically you find when I go into these areas, yeah, people will talk to me, you know, and they agree with my issues, but they're not going to be too forward with a lot of their opinions in some cases, because they're still filling me out. They're just still trying to get an idea, a sense of who I am, what I really represent. But these career politicians have done such a bang up job in pushing away their own base that people are outwardly vocal about their feelings right now. And as I always tell, especially my party, because I know you guys are a nonpartisan group, so I don't want to keep talking in, you know, partisan takes. But, you know, I tell my party that the best and most intelligent thing we can do right now is be intelligent in the way we move forward, show empathy, especially in communities like that, because you have specifically and especially Black and brown Democrats that are ready for the first time in their lives to maybe give somebody from across the aisle a chance, because they see how left things are going on the other side. You know, again, look at somewhere like New York City. 70% of Black people for almost a year or 2 years couldn't go into restaurants because they weren't vaccinated, right? That was their personal choice. And we know in this country, especially the Black community, has had some negative experiences when it comes to these type of things with the federal government in this country. And that obviously would cause a little bit of their suspicion and a little bit of them holding back on just jumping into something that many felt was just so unproven and so rushed at the end of the day. So, you know, with these mandates, with those things, I think politicians, regardless of which side of the aisle they were, when they agreed to these things, really started to show the people who they were and show the people that at the end of the day, they're really not there to represent them. You know, Republicans got vaccinated, Democrats got vaccinated, unaffiliated got vaccinated. But yet, when it came to that minority of people that weren't vaccinated, you know, they got ostracized and pretty much made to feel like they're almost un-American. You know, let's be very clear. I'm not vaccinated. I did not get vaccinated. That is my personal choice. I haven't even really shared that too much, but that is my personal choice. I had COVID about 8 months after it came out, you know, a year and a half ago. And I got over it. Luckily, I am a young, relatively healthy guy. I like to think, at least, and I was able to get over that. I did lose my taste and my smell for almost 4 months, I believe. So it was quite a traumatic experience in that sense, which is really when I understood that, okay, COVID is different. This is not the flu. All right. I've had the flu before. I literally lost my taste and my smell for 4 months. So something was going on. But, you know, also reading up on things and understanding the different sides of what was going on, understanding who was passing from this, where 80% of the people that passed from this disease were overweight. Right. You know, and things of that sort. And we just never, our elected officials never really respected the nuances of what was going on. They made everything so generalized. And I think that's where people really got upset and started to understand who these people were at the end of the day, because all it took was to acknowledge a little nuance to keep us all united at the end of the day. And I think we would have had a much better response and a much better sentiment among the people. But instead, our elected officials decided to, as they do with everything now, make it all political. This side versus this side. Right. And now you got, you know, the extremes over here yelling this, the extremes over here yelling this, and nobody can hear each other. And it just became a very ugly situation.
Very politicized. And as we always say, the reason why we are nonpartisan is because this is a basic human right that we are trying to defend. And it's important for our legislators on both sides of the aisle to stand up for this issue. So, you know, it's amazing. your view on this. Thank you for that transparency regarding your personal health decisions. I'm sure that's very relatable to many of our viewers. And I just want to note one of the comments here that was said by one of our viewers, Jasmine, who mentioned that Darius Mayfield is the change we need. So I thought that was pretty significant and cool, and wanted to highlight that. So can you tell us a little bit about your campaign, specifically in district? What challenges are you up against, and what is your path to victory? I believe you're okay in the general election because you're running uncontested. So tell us a little bit about the next 3 or 4 months here.
Probably a tough question for me, because anytime anybody asks me that question, I'm like, we're great. We're gonna be great. We're gonna win. It is what it is. We're gonna win.
Listen, you gotta visualize it, visualize the outcome, and walk toward that direction. And I think, you have so much in your favor. Again, that relatability, the connection to all different groups in the state, and so much more of the interplaying that's going on within your district. But and again, the issues that are mattering to people, like you said, we saw it in Jack's race significantly. I mean, I can't tell you how many people commented. It was in days. I'd get 5 or 6 comments a time. I'm Democrat, but I'm voting Republican because this is the issue that matters to me. I mean, sorry guys, somebody just keeps bothering me. My apologies. Yeah, I mean, listen, I'm probably what you would call the ultimate optimist. When I say I come from the freest generation that ever walked this earth, I mean it when I say it. And what that means to me is we can do anything we want, anytime we want. We can say anything we want. Now, of course, you should, limit yourself and try to be a professional person, a good person in the things you say and you do. But we have that capability, and we were born that way. We don't know anything different. So even when it comes to this race, although, some people in the political world may say, man, it's a heck of an uphill battle. I was at an event, I think yesterday, and the guy was like, listen, I saw your race, and man, you got a lot of work to do. It's going to be tough to win this one. I said, no, we're going to win. He said, nah, but you got a lot of work to do. Nah, we're going to win. It's going to be fun. We're going to win. And he kept kind of going back and forth for that for a little bit. But I mean that when I say it. And there's a few reasons why. One, because of my experience in life, some of the experiences that we just talked about, where I come from, having been born in a minority neighborhood, to later living in the suburbs, to later living in kind of a mix of both. So I've literally, literally lived in every scenario pretty much in the United States. I can relate to all sides, again, whether it's an urban neighborhood, whether it's a suburban neighborhood, whether it's a brown or black neighborhood. I have friends from all over those neighborhoods. I can relate to everybody. And that's why anytime I speak on something, anytime I address an issue, I'm always looking at both sides of the fence and making the best informed analysis based on my experience dealing with all sides of the equation. This is not a black and white thing. Politics is not a black and white thing. I told some people quite some time ago, I said, listen, if you think that I'm going to fall on the same side of every single issue just because I'm a Republican or a conservative, you don't know me. Right. I'm a regular person. I describe that as being normal. We all have things that fall outside the realm of our specific, maybe affiliated party at the end of the day. So I think I have a great chance because I come from all those worlds. I encompass all those worlds. Also, and this is why I jumped in the first place, we as conservatives especially understood that Joe Biden was going to be a disaster. I'm just going to be honest with you. And none of us expected, I think, for the most part, for it to happen this fast, but it did. And we're here now. Right now, Joe Biden's African-American support is down to almost 60%. His Latino support is down in the 30s. Just to give people an idea, no modern Democratic president, since any of us have been alive, have been in the 60s when it came to African-American support, from what I understand and what I know. Because I see Felicia over there. Correct me if I'm wrong, Felicia. But from what I know, I don't think anybody's been in the 60s there. In fact, I've never seen anybody less than like 85% or so. If those numbers stay where they are as far as African-Americans and as far as Hispanics, there won't be another Democratic president. Now,
we know that polls go up and down, right? So there's no guarantee that it is going to stay there. But just the fact that it's there now, and this is why my message to especially my party is, be smart going forward. Be empathetic going forward. Understand your audience, understand who you are talking to, because people are really ready to give you a chance. They're basically shouting it to you. For them to be at 60% when we literally have, I don't like to call her black, but the first woman of color as our VP, right? And you're still in the 60s, right? With black people, you're still in the 30s with Hispanics. That tells you just how disastrous this administration is and just how much they don't actually trust this administration and just how horrible of a job that they think they're doing. So I think my initial analysis was correct in jumping in the race, especially so early, because I jumped in last February, a lot earlier than most people that actually jumped in this race. And, you know, to do that so early, to understand that once Joe Biden was announced the winner, that we were definitely going to take a downturn in this country and that was going to affect the mood of the country. So just having that outlook beforehand and having that 2020 vision at the time, I think is really what's going to put us over the edge. And I think most importantly, what's going to put me over the edge is the fact that I am going into the neighborhoods and talking to the people that Republicans often have either been too afraid to or just refuse to actually do. You know, when I just did this cleanup in Trenton, New Jersey, I put about 5 or 6 signs out in Trenton, New Jersey. I think, and, you know, anybody on there can correct me if I'm wrong, I think I might be the first Republican with signs in that part of Trenton, to be honest with you. So just to see that, and just for people in those communities to see those signs now is progress and is giving us a window into these communities. And now I want to couple that with bringing real tangible, not only results, but actually bringing the NJGOP, specifically Mercer County with Lisa and everybody out there, into places like Trenton, New Jersey, whether it's doing events, whether it's doing cleanups with us, or whether it's just engaging the people. So people now understand, okay, you have a candidate that looks like us, that talks like us, that comes from our neighborhoods, but what is the party that supports you going to do? Are they really going to be empathetic? Are they really going to show us that they want to earn our vote and they really want to, you know, do right by us? And I believe that answer is yes. I do believe that. Me having been around the NJGOP, working with Jack's campaign last year, doing the different things, meeting so many people within the party, I honestly think that answer is yes. I think a lot of people in the NJGOP do have a lot of empathy towards the plight of people in underserved communities. And let's not forget, underserved communities are not just black and brown as well. There are white underserved communities. So, you know, there's poor white people, just like there's poor black people and poor brown people. And it's time for us to start uplifting those people, because when you go into somewhere like Trenton right now, 95% of the kids in the high school are testing under proficiency rates. 90% of the kids in middle school are testing under proficiency rates. 85% of the kids in elementary school are testing under proficiency rates. What that signals and says to me is they've already got 10, 11 generations of kids set up to fail. And nobody's doing anything about it. In fact, they're just continuing to vote in the same people that put them in these positions in the first place. And people are now sick and tired of it. And they're waiting for a voice to come help lift them out of it. You know, people often think that sometimes people in these communities do it to themselves or they want to stay in those. No, a lot of times you have these elected officials that get voted in these towns and they don't speak for the people, but they have the loudest voice. You don't hear the people, right? So I want to be the voice for those people. Right. And I think that's going to put us over the edge in a lot of these cases. Everything that you're saying shows that you are willing to do that. And the fact that you're willing to get your hands dirty, again, the relatability with people in that district, I think you are being seen and you're being heard. And it's significant because what is going to be better for our movement and our community, the PAC's community, to have an additional representative in Washington, D.C., with somebody who represents our issues and can be that voice, because currently we may only have 2 in the state, perhaps, that will be a voice for us. So, you know, getting into this district and supporting Darius is significant because that would be a one-up for us in Washington. So talking about Washington and bringing the issues that matter to our community, such as
health privacy and being able to continue to make medical decisions for ourselves and our families without mandates or coercion. Those are really and the parental rights, and these are at the heart of the concerns for our community. So can you just elaborate a little bit on how you will navigate these issues when you go to Washington?
Yeah, thanks for the question. I think it's important. I think it's also important for people to continue to be who they are and what they believe in. What I mean by that, especially when it comes to the Republican, the conservative side of things, we are a party of smaller government, right? Not bigger government. And I say that to say that a lot of the ways that I'm going to be able to help facilitate change when it comes to these issues and make sure we don't get back to where we were is going to be galvanizing the people, not necessarily legislating things, right? Because we can't legislate everything, but we have to have the support of the people. And that's why this is a real opportunity for us. And that's why I stress the fact that when it comes to this medical freedom issue, when it comes to the parental rights issue, this is not just a Republican issue. There are a lot of unaffiliated as well as a lot of Democrats that believe the same thing and want to make sure that they maintain, their authorities in that right. And that is the American way at the end of the day. So I think it's going to come down to really galvanize people. I give you an example here in East Brunswick, where I reside. Last year, when we were in the thick of this, our mayor, who's a Democrat, came down and basically announced that he was going to require all public workers to be vaccinated or lose your job. So at the time, we had a gentleman running for city council, Mr. Dave Herrera, who did a great job in galvanizing people in this town. We all showed up to the next city council meeting. We talked to some of the cops. We talked to some of the people, and they're like, nah, we don't want this. And we went to that meeting, and he was forced to reverse his decision, and that did not happen. So those are the type of things that we need to do. As we know, all politics are local. And I can promise you this, even though, because a lot of people don't realize that I'm running for a federal office rather than, running for state office, the assembly. They don't get the distinction a lot of times. But, even though I'm running for federal, and even though I'll be sitting in a federal seat, I will never be afraid to come back and engage my district, engage my state, engage my school board meetings or my city council meetings to let parents and regular people know that they have a voice, that they have somebody behind them that is always going to champion them. However, I'm able to do that as we figure out different ways to do that. And we need to make sure we keep that energy, again, not just with Republicans, but with all American citizens at the end of the day, and continue to galvanize. So that means, again, showing up at city council meetings. If that means showing up in front of the governor's office because he's doing something crazy again, and us going in front of the governor's office and protesting because we want to make sure those things are, not implemented, it means that. And I think as we start to focus on those things, when we bring Democrats, Republicans, and unaffiliated together, there's no politician that we can't stop, because now it's just not the people that aren't in their party protesting. We're going to a Democratic town to protest a Democratic city council that has Democrats here protesting them, as well as unaffiliated, as well as Republicans. So I think we just need to keep galvanizing people. And obviously, as we get to the House, and if there are little things that we can work on as far as legislation is concerned, to make sure that, our elected officials aren't allowed to abuse their power anymore, we'll definitely work on that. But when you have things coming out as executive orders and things like that, it's kind of hard. There's nothing I can do legislatively to flip that, because the president has that power at the end of the day. So we need to make sure that the people are together, and we're always on the ground together. And I think that is, as you've seen over the last year or two, that is the most effective way to change anything. Whether it's, even though it's people I don't agree with, whether it's people like BLM and Antifa who did it, which I don't agree with their tactics and what they're doing, or it's the medical freedom or anti-vax people protesting their causes as well. We need to make sure we bring those people together. And one of the most significant things that I saw, shout out to my boy Mike G, when it came to out in New York City, when it came to some of these vaccine mandates, he was actually able to bring a rally together that was with BLM and the MAGA movement, where both of them came together, joined forces to protest the mandates, the vaccine mandates that were going on out there in New York City. So that's one of the perfect examples that I can give to you, where we need to just galvanize people. And once I'm elected to the House of Representatives, I promise you, I'll be your biggest voice to actually bring those things together and, raise a ruckus all over this country if we need to.
I love that. I love your strategy. I think that it's a strategy that is going to win. It's sort of like, it's like kind of build it and they will come. It's activating the people at a very grassroots level. You're putting yourself out there. You're connecting. There's a likability factor. There's a humanizing factor. And I feel like those bonds are very hard to break, right?
Yeah.
So once you build that, I think that the returns are huge. So Darius, I want to ask you, just shifting gears a little bit, there was an act that was passed in 1986. It was passed by President Reagan, and it's called the National Vaccine Compensation Act. And it basically removed liability from vaccine manufacturers so that they could not be held liable for any adverse reactions or deaths that occurred on the childhood schedule for children. Can you share with us, I believe that you're going to make it into Congress. I think you are going to be somebody who sits in one of those seats. So I want to think that way, and I want to ask you, forward thinking, with an act like that, what are your thoughts about that? And when you are in that seat and you are our voice and you are responsible, what would you do, if anything, to change this in Congress?
Well, I mean, I will say this. I think once we're there, it's definitely something that I would have to look into even more and, see how that's really affected us since that time. But I do also understand the frustration with people, especially in this sense, after we just went through COVID and, the House explicitly passed another bill where you could not sue pharmaceutical companies. I think the problem with this time was we didn't have that trial and error. Right. We had pretty much pharmaceutical companies that were able to put vaccines together in record times. And a lot of people felt like that just wasn't enough time. And none of us were well versed on the effects that may have. And I think to this day, we're still not, because it typically takes almost decades to get through those type of trials to make sure, things are efficient and safe as possible. So I think when Ronald Reagan, passed that act, I think that was with the understanding that you did have those guidelines in place where you were going through years and decades of trials to make sure, we had it to, I don't even want to call it an exact science, because I think when it comes to these things, there's never going to be an exact science. People are going to react differently to different things. I'm allergic to shrimp. I can't eat shrimp. I get a massive headache if I eat shrimp. But if I meet 100 people tomorrow, probably 99 of them can eat shrimp with no problem, right? And that's just the way things go at the end of the day. So I do see a dual purpose for it, because obviously we don't want to drive, we don't want to drive our pharmaceutical companies out of business. To some degree, some of us might want to do that, but we still need our pharmaceutical company. But that could, be an issue. I think that's more what it came down to make sure we don't drive those industries out of business. Because if you have everybody suing these guys for millions and billions of dollars, that would probably not be good for that sector of our economy, which is also still a very important sector of our economy. I relate it to also tort reform, because I do believe in a little bit of tort reform when it comes to doctors, because I think that's what's driving up a lot of our costs. That causes a lot of the problems that we have within our medical field. And I've spoken to a lot of doctors, some of the top doctors, especially here in New Jersey, that are huge advocates with it. But things have to be done in a certain way. You can't just relieve companies of all liabilities, especially when they're not going through the normal channels of making sure that these drugs and these vaccines are as safe as possible. So it would definitely be something that I would look into. It's definitely something that I'm open to talking more about, especially after what we just went through with COVID, because I think now people's fear is, after COVID, before we had that, again, these things went through their proper trials. We had plenty of time and you got to do a lot of testing. But now you see them accelerating everything. And now, because people understand that our government, you just don't know what they're going to do. I think people feel as though this is probably going to continuously happen. Now this is setting the precedent where we're going to have these vaccines popping up that haven't gone through their necessary trials, and the government's just going to give them carte blanche and nobody can sue them. So when it comes to those type of things, absolutely. I do agree with people being able to seek some some type of retribution from being harmed from these COVID vaccines because of the amount of time that, you know, it took to go through these and not having the proper trials and things of that sort. So I was very disappointed when they stepped up and pretty much eliminated people being able to do that. But maybe once we're in the House, we can kind of flip that on its head, because I do believe that with this, specifically with COVID vaccines, there are people that deserve reparations for that and should have the ability to go after those companies.
Thank you. I think we're going to fold into a fun, like, quick fire round now, where we get to ask you some fun questions.
Do you want to start with the first couple, Katie?
Sure. Darius, what was your first paid job?
That was a construction job with my uncle's company called KJ James out of Freehold.
How old were you?
Oof. I was probably like, back then, maybe 12, 13.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's great.
Yeah, I was doing construction for quite a few years with them, from sheetrocking to building additions to cutting down trees and lumber. Yeah, it was a lot.
Your work ethic started young. That's awesome.
Yeah.
What is your current favorite restaurant?
Malaga, and that is in Hamilton, New Jersey. It is a Spanish restaurant. We actually just went there on Sunday after the cleanup. They got the most amazing sangria. They got the most amazing seafood dishes. So if you're ever in Hamilton, go to Malaga restaurant. It is
amazing. Thank you. We'll have to check it out.
Yes, ma'am.
Any pets? Any pets in your life?
No pets. No pets, no kids, just me and my lady, and we are sacrificing our time almost every day to make sure we are living our dreams and we are helping out as many people as we possibly can. So she's holding it down, you know, and her job and getting her new promotion, working 13, 14, 15 hours a day. And I'm over here running this campaign and trying to get it done. So no time for pets and things like that.
Understood. All right, Felicia, I'll let you take the rest. You're muted, Felicia.
Doesn't want to click off on the first try. What is the most interesting destination you visited?
Oof. Well, it's two. I would say Puerto Rico, because I won like 10 grand gambling out there in roulette, so that was great.
Good memory.
But then,
memory. I said positive memory there.
Yeah, that was great. And that was one of the first trips me and Saudia took about 10 years ago when we first got together. I think that's the first place we traveled to together. So that was amazing. And then for her, well, I won't say the date, but the age, but for her birthday, I took her to London, and that became like my second home. I really enjoyed London. We went over to Paris for a day as well while we were over there, but London was absolutely amazing, and I can't wait to go back. So I would say London was probably the best place that I've gone so far.
Great, thank you. And what is the last or most recent TV series you watched? Let's get to see what you're interested in. Is it drama? Ooh. I don't know how I pin you.
All right, so let me just say this. I'm when I have the time, especially nowadays, I just record a lot of things and we'll watch them on the weekend. But I came up in an era where TV was everything for us. I grew up watching the Power Rangers, Ninja Turtles, Saved by the Bell, Beverly Hills 90210. So I love my shows. I think my favorite show right now is The Blacklist. That's awesome right now. But the last one I did watch an episode last night when I got home of FBI. The FBI series, I watched FBI International and FBI Most Wanted. So those are I love those shows.
Awesome. Okay, so last question is, who's your most relatable historian? Who do you relate to?
I guess I would say, and I had to think about this question, I think I would say Thomas Sowell, just from his intelligence and common sense approach to some of what we call nowadays some of the most complex things. A lot of times these elected officials make things, I believe, more complex than they are. So when we talk about this whole issue in the inner city, like a place like Trenton, where the mayor has to pick their school board and their grades and, their progress is disastrous. School choice is the simple fix for it, right? And it's not just school choice. It doesn't just fix everything, but that would go a long way into fixing a lot of the ills that we have in our education system. So the way he's able to just simplify things in such an intelligent manner, even when everybody else is looking at these things as the most complex things in the world and really trying to figure it out, really strikes me, because I'm a Jersey boy. And you guys know about Jersey boys and girls. We like to just get to the point, right? I can't do too much, small talk and going back and forth with certain things. We want to know what it is, how we fix it, and let's get it done, and let's see the results at the end of the day. So I like how he just gets to the point. He's so articulate and intelligent in the way he does it.
Well, it's funny because before when you were talking, I was going to say, like, there's definitely this piece of you that just wants to get to the baseline. And that's, we appreciate that for sure. It seems like, the word common sense is thrown out on all sides of the aisle, but it seems to me like that's where you land, and we appreciate that.
Can I say one thing?
Sure.
And in that vein, I also do want to say, as far as my opponent is concerned, Ms. Bonnie Watson Coleman, we do not plan on playing dirty. We do not plan on disrespecting her. In fact, I appreciate the fact that she is the first Black female congresswoman in the state of New Jersey. We respect that, and we respect what you accomplished. But as you were just saying, I think it more so comes down to, and this is the message that I'm delivering when I go to certain places like those inner cities, is we need tangible results, and we need tangible results now. No more just talking about things and talking a good game, getting there and really not getting anything done while everything seems to get progressively worse. I'm, as you just said, a man of action. I come from the automotive industry where it's action all day long. I have bosses on top of me that are very tough people that are demanding action on a daily basis. So that's how I was bred and groomed at the end of the day. And even when we look at something like our school board, our board of education in certain towns, I wish I could just go into these towns and just fire everybody, because that's my first instinct, coming from the car business, coming from, the business world. Fire everybody and put the people in there that are going to get the job done the right way the first time. Unfortunately, we can't do that, but there are other things that we can do as far as galvanizing people and really making our voices be heard. And I think I'm the man to do that, as opposed to my opponent, who grew up in a different era, which is completely fine. But this is the new era, and we need things done. We need them done now. And I promise you guys put me in the house, we're going to set it on fire.
Awesome. So,
and that's, not literally.
Yeah, please. So we don't want to do that. We need momentum. But so before I pass along to Katie, I apologize, there's some interference. I'm going to just keep it quick. We always like to ask our candidates and our endorsed candidates, if you could just briefly explain, what does health freedom mean to you? I think that is the direct question. And then roll into how we, our community, our viewers can support you to get over the finish line.
Yeah. Health freedom to me is just all Americans having the ability to choose what is best for them when it comes to their health, whether that's from a sickness like diabetes or breaking a bone or COVID, as we just experienced. It is up to that person, their doctor, and their family to figure out what the best scenario for them is, to take care of their individual health. It also means for me, when it comes to children, that parents have the deciding factor in what's best for their kids, their family, and they should be consulting their doctors and their families to make those decisions for themselves at the end of the day. So it's pretty cut and dry with me when it comes to that, and just being able to have that ability to be free, make your own choices when it comes to your health, and figure out the best remedy for you and your family. For some people, that may be therapeutics. For some people, that may be traditional drugs. Whatever the case is, you have the ability in this country to make that case for yourself. And I would just advise everybody, which I think we do and we do a good job of, just to be very smart and conscious of your decisions and how they affect you and your family and how they may affect someone else as well. And I think the American people have shown time and time again that they absolutely have the ability to do that and will always do that. So, we really didn't have to go through a lot of this madness if the people would have just understood who the American people are and believed in that.
Great. And then how can our community support you to help get you over the finish line? And before I sign off, because I'm not sign off, but pass the torch to Katie, I just wanted to say thank you to the viewers and for listening in, and please take these recommendations to support us and Darius as well.
Yeah, absolutely. You guys can all, first and foremost, obviously donating to the campaign is a big thing. As much as, Ed Durst showed us differently that you don't always need a ton of money to get things done. And we definitely appreciate that and love that. My opponent is raising a lot of money. In fact, the first quarter, she raised the most money she's raised since 2016, which is a double-edged sword. I mean, obviously that means she's raising money, but two, that means that they're worried as well. And that's why they have to raise that money, which I'm proud to put that pressure on them because that's what I'm here to do. But you can visit my website at www.DARIUSMayfieldforamerica.com. That's for FOR. And when you go to that first page, you'll see the red donate button right at the top. And while you're at that page, another way you can support the campaign is by clicking on the three bars in the top right corner and selecting events, and selecting the volunteer tab to actually sign up to volunteer with us. So if you go to our events page, you'll see we have some things coming up over the next few weeks, over the next couple of months, and we would love to see you there, as well as visit the volunteer page in order to sign up for phone banking. I'm proud that we now have over 25 people phone banking for us, and this is all in a volunteer-based effort, and people are just kind of flocking to the campaign and wanting to help us out how they can. So my team can get you set up with phone banking through the app, as well as canvassing. As everybody knows, they call me the door knocking king, so I like to go around and knock on doors. We'll actually be in Trenton, New Jersey, knocking tomorrow, and we have a Super Saturday coming up in Montgomery on May 28th. So you can go to the site and sign up for those things, and we'll keep you in tune with what we're doing.
Thank you so much, Darius. It's been such a pleasure. You're so refreshing to listen to you speak. I could listen to you all day. I love your strategy. I love your ideas. I love everything that you have to say. Thank you for joining us today.
Yeah, and thank you guys for having me.
I'm just gonna do a wrap up now for our viewers. So there you have it, everyone. That's NJPHIPAC's first congressional endorsement, our up close and personal with Darius Mayfield. We hope it's clear by now why NJPHIPAC has decided to endorse Darius in this upcoming primary election on June 7th, but also in the general election, which is really where his race is in November. If you reside in District 12, or if you have friends and family that do, please spread the word of how important it is to support Darius's election. It is not only advantageous, but imperative to have strong representation for New Jersey and our country. Our future and our children's future depends on it. We mentioned earlier that the success of the PAC relies on contributions from individuals like you. Being a grassroots organization, we are by the people and for the people. Unlike pharmaceutical giants who have millions at their disposal, the PAC's efforts is a show of people, not just dollars. What we have is a movement of thousands who have passion and who are passionate to preserve our rights, and our rights cannot be bought or contained. In the eyes of our legislators, the contributions that are sent to the PAC, it equals votes. And that is a currency that money can't buy. Every contribution to the PAC shows the legislators that we are a voting bloc and that our concerns should be taken seriously. To become a PAC contributor, please visit our website at www.njphipac.org, and you can make a contribution today through our site. No amount is too small. Thank you again for joining us this afternoon, and we'll see you next time on the PAC Chat.
Thank you, Katie. Thank you, Darius. Thank you to our viewers. Please stay connected to us and have a wonderful day.
Take care, everybody.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
All right, so we're going to head over to the Zoom.